Hi everyone, welcome once again to Geekfest Rants. Today we have a smallish kind of episode that deals with what is happening currently mid-season with just a few of our favorite shows. Joining me today is Tony Rossi. Say hi, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
That's Tony, all right. And I'm going to let Tony take the lead here because he is watching a couple of the same shows I am. And go ahead, Tony. Which is the first one you want to talk about?
The first one I would start with is The Event, which
Yes.
started off the year fairly promising. I've watched it all season, or half the season through now. And I definitely like the momentum that it has. It's got the mystery. It keeps you interested from week to week. It reminds me of 24 in that sense, in that, it's always the story is moving you forward.
It seems to want to combine 24 and Lost almost.
See, I see people comparing it to Lost, but as you and I have disagreed on in the past, see, Lost had mystery, but it was really about themes like faith and doubt and good and evil. This is
more sci-fi.
This is
sci-fi.
This is really more the story is the story. And I think in the beginning, character-wise, it really hinged on Jason Ritter's character. He was the one I felt most emotionally invested in, and him trying to save his girlfriend and everything.
Plus, they also gave you a lot at first. It wasn't like the mystery was so gigantic that you had no clue where you were.
Yeah.
They gave you a lot of pieces of the puzzle early on the show.
Yeah. And the first episode was almost maybe a little too much flashing back and forth, I remember. But, I mean, so in that sense, I think it worked. As time has gone on, I think the Blair Underwood character has grown. His assistant, Selko Ivanek is his real name. I don't remember what his show name is.
Yeah, but he's an X-24 guy who always
was
plays
on Heroes.
He always plays a Heroes, always playing a bad guy. So there's a lot of baggage. Also, it's when you put a character, an actor like that, which you start to like. You can't picture them as a good guy or a bad guy depending on what they previously did.
Well, that in the beginning they wanted you to suspect him as being a double agent, and it turns out to be the father from Life Goes On, who was the actual double agent.
That's right, it was Corky's dad.
That's right.
Oh, I wish Corky would come back.
Bill Smitrovich. So I think it's grown in that sense. The whole issue of the aging little girls, took me by surprise.
Yeah, that was a little
bizarre.
X-File-ish.
Yeah, it is going in that direction.
I can only imagine that probably is something to do with how they don't age. Somebody wants to kind of maybe replicate it.
The Hal Holbrook character wants to somehow, but I don't know. He kind of shapeshifted a few episodes ago. So does that mean he is one of them, or he is something else?
It's
undecided.
It's undecided. It's sci-fi-ish, like we said, but it's very broad. It seems to be the show seems to want to spread out in a lot of different directions, which, in a way, when we talk about Fringe next, it's going to kind of mirror certain things. But it's hard to tell right now where the show wants to go. I believe that this is the type of show where, similar to last year's Flash Forward, they promised that they wouldn't drag on the mystery for too long because they were always afraid of this Lost effect of people drifting away from the show because not enough answers are being answered. Now, with Flash Forward, the experiment failed because even though they gave you stuff, the show fell apart. This show seems to be following a similar pattern where they are giving you a lot of information, but I still haven't gotten that feeling of, oh my God, this show is great. I'm still trying to work it out.
Well, I don't think viewers have gotten that feeling quite yet either, because ratings haven't been that great. Correct. And I think now it's going to be off the air until March, which is also what they did with Flash Forward, which got canceled.
It's like a 3 or 4 month hiatus, which I haven't seen a good results come out of something like that yet. Yeah,
and I think Flash Forward, in terms of like keeping the momentum going, I think The Event has done a better job in its half season than Flash Forward did in its, because I think towards the middle of the season, Flash Forward got kind of flat. It just felt like it was in a rut, whereas The Event does seem to kind of be moving forward. And I was disappointed that Wise Guys Roger Lococo, William Russ only lasted a couple of episodes as the cop who was holding Layla in the precinct. I thought he would last a little bit longer, and D.B. Sweeney. But, I don't know. And we're assuming that The Event is these aliens landing, but The Event could be something different in terms of the mind of the producers.
Right, and I don't know if they're going to give you that. I mean, again, that's the name of the show. That's the whole point of the show. They're going to most likely give us, and like I said, they've given us a lot of information. The fact that, 2-3 episodes into the show, we already know we're dealing with aliens.
Yes.
I mean, like that's something I'm surprised they gave us so early on. You figure they would save that for a season finale kind of thing to keep everyone hanging, but I guess they might have known that the show was going to need some cliffhangery moments early on to generate the ratings. I just hope it not only does it come back, but it at least finishes the season.
I hope so, and if it does, well, I think it's going to finish the season, definitely, but hopefully if it finishes the season, it gets to wrap up the storyline, unlike Flash Forward, which just left things open, and frankly, even as a season finale, the Flash Forward final episode didn't really thrill me, but no, I mean, I like the event has a good cast, and I think it's going in the right direction, and it's
the actors are good. My only little concern with the actors is that I know them all. They're all ex-actors from other TV shows that I remember, so it's a little... Again, not to compare it to Lost, but Lost was full of unknowns.
Yes.
And except for a couple of big characters, and I mean, even Matthew Fox, I never watched
Party of Five.
So he kind of looked familiar, but I could never, connect him to something. But this show does have a lot of people, even somebody like Jason Ritter, who normally most people wouldn't know him. I happen to watch 2 or 3 shows that he was in, and it's like, oh, I know that guy. But mostly everybody I know, and it makes it a little difficult when a TV show like that happens, where it's hard for you to separate yourself from their previous roles. But the story, it's a nice, strong sci-fi twist, and it has the 24 element, and we'll see. I hope it comes back, like I said, and it finishes off.
They do try to bring in the Lost type character development once in a while. They have had a few episodes dealing with the backstories of the characters,
the flashbacks, and all that stuff, which is kind of cool. It's kind of cool seeing them go back a pretty long time.
The aliens themselves are so interesting.
Yeah.
Laura Innes is okay, but her son, is it Thomas, the one who's gone rogue?
He's a big television, big movie actor.
He looks familiar, but I don't know.
He's been in so many movies. He's never the lead, but he's always a character actor. But we'll see. We'll see where it goes. I mean, it doesn't seem to have... I mean, they don't seem to go too crazy with effects. The plane crash and the plane almost crashed. That was great, but they seem to kind of... They rather stick, I think, to the action than the big, flashy sci-fi side of things.
Right. They got to keep costs down.
What's next on the list, Tony?
I guess we got to talk about Fringe, which I think is having its best season ever.
Fringe, it's a funny show because we've talked about the show in a previous episode of Geekfest Rants, and we've gotten to the point now where it's all about alternate universes.
It's mythology,
right?
But I like that.
Now the question that I always have is, what happens next? Can the show continue season after season dealing with this, or do they get to a point where they're like, we've wrapped up this arc, if it is an arc, and now we're going to move on to some other bizarre kind of thing? Because this is a pretty heavy thread through the show. This is what defines. This is the purpose of the show, if you think about it.
But it has
the relationship between the father and the son. It's all part of this story.
Yeah, but it's taken them. This is now 2.5 seasons to get to this point, and now you have Olivia trying to keep the two worlds from going to war.
Right.
So I think they can stretch that, assuming, since it's moving to Friday nights, assuming that the ratings are good enough to keep it going.
Well, that's another issue.
Even though when you take into account DVR, that the ratings go up significantly, but I think this has been its strongest season ever because I like the focus on the mythology.
I love it when they go to this alternate world. I love seeing all the different little things in the alternate world. Things are identical, but then things are a little different. I love that stuff. That change.
I thought they were actually going to, I figured, our world's Olivia in the alternate world, I figured you would like her, but I thought they would make the other Olivia coming to this world more likable, like they'd show her interacting with her sister and her niece to kind of develop that
a little more,
because she seemed like pretty much a hard ass the whole time through,
and she stays that way. She has tiny little blips of kind of liking things here, and then she's completely in the other side.
Because wasn't like the deaf guy, she shot him in the back of the head, and I was like, wow, this is a really different Olivia.
Yeah.
So that kind of surprised me that they didn't do more to humanize her. But alternate verse Broyles turned out to be a really good guy who came to a pretty tragic, unexpected end. And they just set him up with the wife and the family, and then next thing you know, so that was, I think, the stories this season have been interesting and emotionally engaging in terms of the characters.
And it was cool that the actor, I forget the character's name, but her partner who died in the real world is alive in this alternate world, and he's still going around doing his thing, you know.
Right.
And there's the other guy with all the scars on his face, that he's not part of this world.
Yeah, I didn't think he
He's
looked
completely
familiar.
new on the other side. So it's that's really cool. And like I said, because they're kind of wrapping it up now, I think they'll at least finish this season with this arc. And again, I'm really interested in knowing where do you go next with the show.
Well, the Watchers are coming back. The bald guys.
Right. Now, were those guys involved in any of this, or they are completely outside?
No, they are involved in this. I mean, I think the last time we saw them was in season 2, but they were, I think, they got involved somehow because the
time cops or something, right? They're like,
I guess,
or alternate universe.
Because the one I
cops
think
or something.
saved Walter and Peter from drowning at one point, and like I forgot, one of them had gotten involved in the life of Walter and Peter when he wasn't supposed to, I think, and somehow they're like watching this whole war between the worlds, and I don't know if they're trying to avoid it or make it happen. I don't recall anymore, but that seems to be where the show's going when it comes back in January.
Yeah, I also like how whenever you're in this alternate world, like the credits, they change the color of the credits.
Yeah.
It's all reddish.
Yeah.
Because I guess that's the hint.
And I thought this mid-season finale was good, the way they tied in. Well, first of all, that whole marionette scene was very creepy and it was hard to watch. But I like how they tied in, you know, the Frankenstein doctor kind of guy trying to bring this girl back to life and saying he knew it wasn't her when he looked in her eyes, and then that triggers Olivia's response to Peter that he should have known the other one wasn't her. So I like the way they tied in the kind of standalone story, so to speak, to the mythology of what's going on between the characters.
And what's interesting is that with stories like this, as a writer, you get to cheat. In other words, when you know a show, there's always like some kind of sexual tension between, let's say, the star and the co-star. and you know the rule is never let them hook up because that's the end, that's the kiss of death for a show.
Right.
But here it's kind of like they're letting them do it, but it's a different world. It doesn't matter. So the question is, how are these two going to interact once everything comes back, and how do they handle that whole
It's
thing?
a monkey wrench. So
Now, one quick note about the show. You mentioned before, Friday. They're moving it to Friday.
9 p.m.
Typically, the Kiss of Death. I heard that the episode, I think that either just aired or an episode that's about to air, they called it Firefly.
Oh, really?
Because of the fact that when Firefly moved, it was the Kiss of Death for Firefly.
But Firefly didn't move, did it? Firefly was always on Fridays.
Was it always on Fridays?
I think it's so.
I heard something about that. It was kind of like an in-joke that they named it just to screw with people.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what's going to happen on Fridays? Traditionally, it's the Kiss of Death. However, you have the X-File factor. That's where that show all of a sudden blossomed. I don't remember what night X-Files started on. Was it Tuesdays and then moved to Fridays or something?
I don't remember. I didn't watch it when it was on.
But
I watched, by the time I started watching it was on Sundays.
Oh, wow.
Which was later towards the
But it's funny
second
because
half.
it was definitely on Fridays that the show finally popped, that people started watching it.
But now we also have people recording more DVR, watching online. So
yeah, I hope that actually counts for something. I mean, I know that it's still kind of difficult to track the DVR numbers, and sometimes I could have swore they try to factor them in, or they do factor them in, but I don't know if that actually means something for advertisers or for ratings. Who knows? I hope so.
Closing out this podcast, we're going to talk about No Ordinary Family, and ironically enough, we are sitting here with the Not Ordinary Perrone family. So, Carlos, what do you think of the show?
Well, first of all, this is one of the few shows we watch as a family, and I kind of see it as a combination of two things. The show is trying to be a little bit of Heroes, or at least the style of Heroes, of dealing with a superhero, and how television deals with it as opposed to a film like an X-Men type of film. And it's also trying to be a family show.
Yes.
So it tries to balance those two things, and sometimes it goes a little too cliche family, ABC family channel-ish kind of. What was that show we used to watch? Kyle XY-ish. And then it goes to the hero side, because I guess Heroes now is kind of like the definition of the modern superhero show as far as television goes.
There's something unusual about the show for me, because when I first heard about it, I was a little bit hesitant, because it seemed like it was going to be kind of hokey. Like, here's these people, what do we do with our powers? You know, those hashed out, tired old storylines. And it does have a bit of that, but for some reason it keeps me intrigued. I don't know why. I'm trying to figure that out, but I enjoy watching it, and I'm glad the kids enjoy watching it, but I don't know what it is.
Do you think it's because they integrate like things all families and kids and parents deal with?
Maybe, but like when it comes to riveting programming, usually, it's going to sound terrible, that doesn't always do it for me. Do you know what I mean? But it's just, I don't know, I do enjoy, watching it. I guess maybe it's the actors, maybe they do it well. I don't know.
And it's also funny.
Yeah, it can be. Yep.
How about you, Kyle? What is it about the show that you enjoy?
Well, I enjoy like well, like the different superpowers they use, like the time when they had the guy who throws fire at people. That was so cool. And then and I bet you didn't know this, but the guy who plays the main character, he's in the Fantastic Four. He plays the Thing.
That's right. Do you think he plays a similar character, or he's a little different?
Yeah, he kind of does, just he doesn't have the weird skin.
That's right. How about you, Amanda? I know you watch the show with us most times. Is there something you like about the show?
I pretty much like all of it, but I don't like how the bad guys get all the cooler powers.
Oh, that's right, because we've only seen a couple of bad guys so far, right, Tony?
I think we've seen there's like Katie's new boyfriend, the guy who has mind control. There's the fire guy. Yeah, there's been a few superpowered bad guys, yeah. But I mean, Jim, is it Jim Powell? I remember Michael Chiklis' character.
Chiklis.
He's got the superpowers and the leaping around. I mean, if I had one critique about the show, it's that he tends to use, I think they all tend to use their powers out in public too much, just assuming nobody is going to recognize them, and they should be doing something to cover up their faces at this point, because, I mean, she starts running in the middle of a space and somebody would notice she's not there, and he's leaping tall buildings,
right,
surrounded by other people. So
I don't think they're purposely trying to be too realistic. There's so many things that happen, like you said, that normally they would have gotten caught, they would have been seen. She's running around, like you said, all that kind of stuff. But I think that's part of the in other words, that's part of the show. That's they're letting it go that far. It's like, okay, fine, let's go with it. One of my problems with the show is, and I mentioned this once before, again on another previous podcast, is that I used to watch Michael Chiklis in The Shield, and he was a very serious, gritty, heavy actor, and here he's more light. He's way light.
Yeah,
and I'm having a lot of problems, like watching him and saying, you can do better than that. You can get a little angrier. And it's like, oh no, he's not.
But before The Shield, he was the Commission, which he was a more light character.
I never saw that. So
I didn't either, but
I
still.
only known him as the guy from The Shield, super bad guy, and now he's Mr. Good Guy. And it almost, to me, it looks like he's trying to purposely not be the previous character, but. It's just a little thing.
And I have to give major compliments to the girl who plays Katie, the Autumn Reeser character, who is like every geek guy's dream. She knows her comic books, and she's got.
That's right. She drops those references every now and then.
I think she's definitely an homage to all the geeks watching.
They also, what's also cool is the girl who plays the wife. That I know her from Dexter.
She was an angel.
And she really
in Buffy. Yeah.
Wow, and she plays such a different character in Dexter, and here she's more realistic. In Dexter, she was kind of like this flighty, whatever goes type of person, and here she actually has more of a personality, more of a strong personality, and it's weird watching her. It almost feels like 10 years have gone between these series, but no, she's just playing a different character, and it looks different.
And she's playing it well, then, I guess.
Yeah, she's gone from dumb blonde to intelligent blonde, and so it's a big transition.
We're all getting used to that still. We're trying to adjust. Well, I think that's about it for An Ordinary Family. I'd like to thank Tony and our extra guest stars today, Kim, Kyle, and what's your name? Amanda. That's right, Amanda, my daughter. Please join us again next time on Geekfest Rants.